You may have seen some videos where the camera appears to zoom in on a particular part of a photograph or still image. I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can imitate this animation using iMovie. First, let's assume that you've already imported your media into iMovie. Click and drag a photo onto the timeline. You can adjust the length of time that the photo appears on your screen by clicking and dragging the edges of this yellow box. Now the image will appear for 2 seconds and 36 milliseconds. To zoom in on a particular part of the image, click on the crop icon. Click Crop to Fill. Drag the edges of the box until only the part of the image that you want to zoom in on is in the box. Click back to the timeline. You should see that your image is now zoomed in to just one element. But wait, you still need to show which image you're zooming in from. You can drag an image onto the timeline multiple times. Let's add it again. Now when we play the video, the large image appears to zoom in to the smaller image. But this transition can be a bit jarring for your audience, so let's add a transition between the large image and the zoomed in part of the image. Click on Transitions, and then choose a transition. You'll probably want to use a simple transition like Cross Dissolve or Fade to Black. Let's try Cross Dissolve. Click and drag the transition onto the timeline. Let's see how it looks. You can adjust the length of the transition by clicking on it and changing the duration. Here's another way that you can imitate the zoom in animation. Click the crop icon again. This time, we'll use an effect called the Ken Burns effect, named after the documentary filmmaker Ken Burns. The box labeled Start is how the image will look in the first frame. The box labeled End is how the image will look when it is finished zooming in or zooming out. Right now, End is bigger than Start, so we're going to click the reverse arrow to reverse these. Click and drag the edges of the box so that you can zoom in on a particular part of the image. Make sure that the yellow arrow is pointing to the item that you are trying to zoom in on. Let's see how it looks. That's not bad. But we can make this even more subtle by ensuring that the boxes are close in size to one another. Click and drag the start box so that it is just a little bit bigger than the end box. Don't forget to make sure the yellow arrow is pointing at the bird. Let's see how it looks. One disadvantage of this technique is that it ends very abruptly. You will either want to adjust the length of time that the image displays on the screen, which will slow down the zoom in animation, or you'll want to be sure that you include another zoomed in clip of this image afterwards. This is still a little bit jarring, so we'll add another transition. Make sure that your image appears on the screen long enough for you to describe the object. Keep in mind, these images are only on the screen for a couple of seconds. At the same time, make sure they're not on the screen too long because you want to keep your audience engaged. One more thing. It's very important that you use a large high-resolution image, otherwise your image will appear blurry. Here's what happens if you use a smaller image. You can see that the outline of the elephant is blurry and that there is pixelation in the sky. This is because the image was compressed when it was made smaller. Thanks for watching, and happy filmmaking!